This is our third attempt at this. Welcome to the first episode of Breaking Jaded.
Welcome.
My name is Chloe, and I am 22, and I was conceived on a sex swing.
That's what you're going to say?
Your turn. Go ahead.
You're so...
And Mom's turn.
Wow.
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Kendra, and I'm Chloe's mom. First and foremost, I am 50 years old. Oh my God, that's embarrassing.
You don't look 50.
Anyway.
You don't act 50.
Okay, well, that's good. Jeez, that's something, I think. I don't
In
know.
a good way, you don't act 50. We get along. I think we get along because you don't act your age.
Okay. I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh, it is. I mean,
okay. So anyway, I am a recovering addict, and that is a big part of what we're going to talk about here. Chloe and I, this is our third time together in 6 years. I just was recently released from federal prison in April after spending 5 years on a 6-year sentence.
You made it.
I made it, and it was rough. It was really, really rough. It was not, I don't know whoever lied and said that it's like club fed or it's fun or whatever. It's way better than
I don't
state.
think anyone's ever said that.
Yeah, people say, oh, you're lucky you were in the feds. Oh, they called it club fed. People have been calling that for years because they think it's easy time. No, it's not. It's not at all.
No. It was hard hearing all about it all from the outside too.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't help that I spent the first 3 years in a detention center waiting to be sentenced.
Yeah.
So that was miserable. Absolutely miserable. Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm out now and I'm clean now. I've got 4 years clean, and that's a miracle in itself.
Yep.
Because it's really hard to stay clean in there. You know, there's so many drugs, and it's very, very difficult to stay clean in or out of prison. So for anyone that is in recovery, I'm super proud of you, and keep it up. And if anyone
we are proud of you
needs help, I'm here for you. So we're going to talk about a lot of things on this podcast. This is for our own healing.
Recovery is a big one though.
Yeah. And we're, probably going to touch on some things that might trigger people, because there's a lot of trauma in our life due to drug addiction. Chloe's dad was a drug addict. My fiance for years was an alcoholic, and then a drug addict too. And so
we've lost a lot of people. We've been through some things.
Both passed now.
And I think that the reason we came up, I like the word jaded. I don't like what it means. And we concluded with breaking jaded because we strongly believe that no matter what we've been through, everything and anything is survivable. And jaded is not a way to live life. It is really easy, a lot easier to just let things affect you and use things, kind of play the victim and use things as an excuse to mistreat other people or just go about life pretty cold, hardened, negatively. But that's really just not a way to live life. That's not a way that you and I have ever lived. It takes a lot of effort to choose to not be jaded and to choose to keep moving with an open heart and an open mind, and to keep, no matter what's happened to you, to never use it as an excuse to be a bad person or treat other people badly.
And to choose to look at things through a lens of compassion. So in understanding that you never know someone else's story, not their whole story anyway. You may know parts of it, but you don't know, and you definitely don't know their perspective of it. You don't know their you don't see things from their perception.
Everyone's experienced life differently, and it's affected them and impacted them in different ways. And it is super important to try to put yourself in other people's shoes before you judge. A lot easier said than done, and it takes practice, and it takes a lot of compassion. And like I said, when people have gone through really hard shit and they're traumatized from it, it is really even harder, because it is a choice every day. You choose to be compassionate, because it's hard. Sometimes it's just so much easier to just judge people and be negative and let those emotions consume you.
Yeah.
And to play the victim. And it's it takes strength to be vulnerable, and it takes strength to continue to be compassionate, open-minded, and open-hearted. And it is really easy to lose trust and then try to trust again. We're going to talk, like you said, we're going to talk about a lot of things on this podcast, but what means the most to us is helping other people, and we have a lot of healing to do ourselves.
Absolutely. Whether it's help you get clean, whether it's help you get sober, whether it's help you see things from a different perspective with an addict that's in your life, or anyone that's in your life that's hurt you in any way. Yeah. If we can help through our stories and
give a different perspective
and show how close we are now, right?
Forgiveness is very
forgiveness important. Is so important, and I am so blessed that you've forgiven me.
Yeah, I forgave you a long time ago. I don't think I ever.
Yeah, well, I don't deserve it.
I think
and so I'm so grateful for it.
Someone recently was talking to me who's pretty close to me, and she's a new mom, and I was talking to her about you, and she was asking me, she's like, how were you able to bring yourself to forgive your mom? And I really admire that you were able to forgive your mom after everything. And I said, well, I responded with, it's her first time on this earth too. And we've always been super connected.
Yeah.
It's gone deeper than just the surface level stuff. And it always has. And I've always felt that connection even when we weren't talking for a couple of years. And it is very important to forgive people, not only for them, but for yourself, because it's easy when you hold grudges and you're a little jaded and you tend to constantly have negative thoughts in your head and resentment and grudges to just continue on living with those. But that's just not a way to live, because you will never find success. You'll never find happiness. You'll never bring in healthy relationships and happiness with yourself. You'll never be happy with yourself. I'd say, and we're going to work on this, but the best and easiest way for me to not be so jaded or allow myself to be jaded is to keep being vulnerable.
Right.
And which is probably the most uncomfortable thing someone can do.
Yeah.
And it takes more strength. And it takes, when the world's cold to you, you got to keep pushing and keep being nice and keep being kind and compassionate, because you're then able to live with yourself, and you're able to heal from those past things, and you're able to not take things so personal when people wrong you, and you're able to understand that if anyone, even if it's a straight up what feels like a personal attack on you, it's never personal. It's always their inner issues and the way they feel about themselves, and they're just projecting it. And like you said, you never know what someone else is going through, and it's really important to just be
or it's not intentional. Like with addiction, it's never intentional. No parent that's an addict comes at it with the intent of hurting their children,
right.
And so,
or anyone in their life,
or anyone for that matter. But I think children struggle so much with, they chose, my parents chose drugs over me, or my mom or my dad chose drugs over me. And one, addiction is never a choice. No one grows up saying, I want to be a drug addict when I grow up. I want to be a junkie when I grow up, right? That was not in my plans at all. Not only is it not a choice, but it's something that as an addict, when you're using, especially I think, when you're strung out, you want so bad there's nothing you want more than to be with your child that you love so much, right? But you don't see a way out. And then the guilt and shame of the things that, that they've suffered through, or that, just being away from you has caused, that just compounds upon, itself into where you keep getting high just to numb that pain, just to try and fill the hole in your heart from not being with that child. And it's never filled. But I know for me, heroin numbed my feelings, so did meth, I still felt, don't get me wrong, I was still, internally in so much pain.
Yeah, it doesn't fix anything.
No, it's never a solution. It's always makes it worse.
Yep.
Especially the consequences of it always makes it worse. And there are always consequences. Like in, you know, NA and AA, they talk about, you know, that the end result is jails, institutions, and death. And
It's true.
yeah, 100% true. It's 100% accurate.
And you going into federal prison is what saved your life. Because that's when you decide to make the decision. That's when you have to make the decision.
Yeah. I mean, jail and prison, unfortunately, is sort of how a lot of people, you know, get there. I hate to say that because
the system is super corrupt.
Good portion of people, the majority of people, it doesn't do anything for, because the rehabilitation component of it is so lacking.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's very rare that someone gets clean in
has
jail.
The strength.
And it's not strength. I can't say it's strength. It's a power greater than ourselves that gets us clean. You know, it's my faith that got me clean, because I couldn't even explain to you what it was, right? I
was your motivation.
You were my motivation. Yes, you were my motivation, because I realized when I was we were speaking every day on the phone, right? And I was so happy and so grateful to have you back in my life, and and have you asking me for advice and taking my advice from a mom and like soaking that up, because you'd missed it for so long. And then I realized all of a sudden when the drugs came in and I was loaded, especially on heroin, I was so not present for you, right? I didn't even want to call as much, right? Because one, it's uncomfortable when you're loaded, but two, there was that guilt and shame was back. And so having just experienced this building up of a relationship with you while I was clean for, you know, a few months, and then all of a sudden getting loaded again was like a huge wake up call to me, that I, you know, didn't want this anymore. This is not who I want to be. I do not, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. At that time, I had no idea how much time I was going to get, right? And so, but it didn't matter to me. It mattered that I got the opportunity to talk to you every day, and that I wanted to be present, 100% present for you when I was talking to you, right? I owed you that, right? I owe you every bit of the time and energy and ability I have to be a really, really good mom to you now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
you've done a damn good job so far.
I can't go back, right? But I can be grateful for the first 9 years we had together and the foundation that I built when I was clean then, right? And because I know it's made you who you are. You know, you're such a loving and compassionate person, and just to hear the things you were just saying, I am so proud of who you've become. Thank you. Proud. And
I've preached since I was little. I don't know how I knew when I was little. It's not right to use your hardships and your negative experiences as an excuse to mistreat other people. And so I have always told everyone that I am grateful for everything I've been through. Someone will ask questions and I'll end up trauma dumping, and they'll look at me like, what? And I'll just be like, no, I'm grateful. Like, it made me who I am. And then they're like, what?
Right.
How? And then the biggest and best compliment I could and have ever received is, how did you turn out so well? I love that shit, because it came from me.
Right.
Like, I always chose to be the better version of myself every day. And it made me so much stronger. Every day I got stronger. But I also allowed myself to go through the emotions and feel everything that I was affected by. Right. And then after that, I would still choose to be better instead of suppressing things, choosing to be numb, which truthfully, and everyone says this too, after everything I've been through, I have every right to be jaded. I have every right to go be a drug addict, 100%. Be an alcoholic, and make it through all the wrong decisions.
Or just be angry and bitter.
And this is important because I have all of that in me.
Yeah, I know you do.
I have all of that impacted me in the way that, I have all that anger. I have the resentment and the grudges towards everyone and everything that's ever wronged me. But I have the strength and the heart and the mind to choose, make the decision, not to be a victim. I make the decision every day to be the better version of myself, because I know that at the end of the day, it heals me. You're able to love yourself and process things and move on and forgive that way. Otherwise, if you don't choose to be the better version of yourself, you're living in that jadedness, which I guarantee you is a word. I swear to God, it's a word.
I don't think
And I'm
it's
going to
a
use
word.
it. I don't care if it's not a word.
Jadedness. Okay. You're going to look it up right now?
Hey Siri, is jadedness a word?
Mom's right.
Hold on.
Because you're going to try something else.
Is
You're going to
jadedness
try chat GPT now because you didn't like Siri's answer?
is jadedness a word? It couldn't even spell it out. Yikes.
I think that's your answer right there. So what the fuck are you saying?
Is jadedness a word? Yes. Jadedness is a word. It refers to the state or quality of being jaded.
Okay.
We actually, funny story, we actually were about to name this podcast Unjaded, which is not a word, but we were like, fuck it. It's a title, it's a name. It can be whatever we want. But then we came up with Breaking Jaded because a lot of people are initially impacted very negatively and they let all of those negative traits consume them after what they've been through. And
they're not traits or experiences, right? Right. There's
but it can cause traits. It can cause bad habits and responses and mechanisms, coping mechanisms, whatever. You can, like I said, it's in me, but I choose to break those habits. I choose to be super aware of them and how I'm affecting other people, how I'm responding to things, and break them because that's not how I want to be.
Right.
Breaking jadedness.
Yeah.
Jadedness. I was right. It's a word. Yeah.
So cocky.
Yeah, so this means a lot to us.
It does.
It means a lot to us, and it resonates with us, and I know it resonates with a lot of people. And speaking of ChatGPT, I saw a video where a guy typed in and said, what is humanity? What will be the end of humanity? What are we failing at? ChatGPT responded with, humans believe that technological advances are what we need to be focused on. And we are failing miserably at connecting with each other and human connection and compassion. And I was like, AI is telling us that, and that's the truth. Humanity is what's going to kill the world. Humanity will kill itself. It's self-destructive in that way, as if we're not open enough with each other. We're not vulnerable enough. I saw another video of a guy saying he moved from out of the country, out of the U.S., into the U.S. He was born here. He moved away for most of his life and came back. And he said when he came back, he was so disturbed by the way that we were treating each other here.
Dividedness.
Divided, like he said, where I forget where he was living, but he said where he had just come from, people would hold doors open for each other, and when they would say, how are you doing today? A total stranger, how are you doing today? They respond with an actual response, not just good, thanks, bye. Like, we don't connect with each other anymore. No. And so that's part of being jaded. And honestly, I will say the world is pretty corrupt, and the world is kind of on fire at the moment, but you think continuing on with that is going to fix it? Like, we need to, the only way to reverse a lot of this stuff, or at least prevent it from getting worse, is to connect with each other and spread more love and positivity and to be vulnerable, even though it is so uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable, but that's what we're here. We're getting...
This podcast is going to save the world, is basically what I'm saying.
Wow. I think it'll save us for sure. Cause
at least I know it'll save us because it's already saving us.
And if we can just touch one person out there.
And at least if we can give out a different perspective, because that really is very important, is just being able to step outside of yourself and look at people and situations through a different lens, as you said. So I mean, if we can do that to someone.
Maybe if I forgave my mom because she was an addict, right? And because they see where you're at and how close we are, and why would you ever want to miss out on that? So if you can understand addiction a little better, if I can help someone understand addiction a little better, right, and then maybe remove some of that anger and bitterness, right, and understand that it was not about them, it was not personal at all, right, and that mother or father, whoever it may be, still loves, or even daughter or son, because a lot of people,
lose their children.
And there's so much taught negatively, there's so much negative influence out there about the whole tough love. And let me just be clear on this. I 100% get there's a difference between enabling someone who's an addict and loving someone who's an addict, right? So reaching out to an addict and letting them know you love them and that you're there for them and you'll always be there for them. And if they want help, especially, you will
Makes
be
a
there to help them,
world of a
even if you've
difference.
helped them 5 times before, because you never know when they're ready, right?
And you can't take
And
it personal.
yeah, and it had
And the
nothing to do with you that they relapsed.
exactly
Absolutely nothing to do with
the
you.
biggest lesson I learned through dealing with both parents being addicts, I learned this very young, and I'm so grateful. You cannot fix anyone but yourself.
No,
You can't change anyone. You can't fix anyone.
No.
You can help,
right,
but you will never be able to
Right.
fix and change someone.
right,
So with you and Dad and Doug and everyone who I had to learn at a young age I have zero control. But all I can do is have hope and
Mhm.
keep loving them in which I know and
yeah,
in the way that I know how.
yeah, absolutely,
And sure enough, I
And knowing-
had faith, I had hope,
right,
and a lot of people passed and I had to deal with it, but I had to it was hard, but I had to avoid taking it personal and blaming myself, because truthfully, just the fact of knowing that I can't do anything to change or fix anyone made it easy for me to understand that, okay, if there's nothing I could do to fix them, then there's nothing I could do to make them do what they're doing in the first place.
right,
Therefore, it's not my fault what happens to them.
no,
So that tactic has helped me a lot with
Yeah.
that too.
right. It is so important just to keep reaching out and keep letting them know you're there, because our addict brains and our drug addicted brains will tell us, especially in the shame and guilt that we're in, will tell us that, one, we don't deserve you, right? Two, you're better off without us.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. Self-sabotage is a little different, because usually self-sabotage happens when things are going well and you throw it all away because you don't think you deserve.
That's kind of what it is. People are trying to give you
No, but I'm saying when you're in your addiction,
right.
right? You have reasons to feel shame and guilt because of the things that you're doing in your life, right? And because you're hurting people. So there's reason for that. But in that, your belief system is that your vibration and energy system is so low that you have this belief that you don't deserve love from anyone, right? Including that's God and everyone else, right? You throw that out the window and you throw everything out the window because you don't believe anyone would love you in that state, right? Because you can't love yourself.
Yep.
It's very, very hard to love yourself. Never mind believe that someone else could love you. And especially when you're hurting your own child, your child is suffering because of your addiction, then that's when I think you beat yourself up the most, right? And it's really easy to think that your child's better off with someone else than you. And sometimes they are, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's certainly things that you never should have witnessed and never, I'm grateful that I was not in your life for those years, so that you didn't experience those things that I was doing, right?
I experienced other horrible things, but
I know.
I agree.
I know.
It's, everything happens for a reason. So, and again, like I said, with all the other horrible things that I experienced while we were separated, I can't help but be grateful for them because it made me so much stronger.
Right. And as weird as it may seem, as much as I hate what happened to you, what you went through, and I hate that I wasn't there for you and all those things, at the same time, knowing where we are both right now and knowing that we could never have gotten here having not had all of those experiences, all of that compound trauma upon trauma upon trauma, knowing that, then I can't help but be grateful too. I can't help but think that those things, our lives were blessings, right? Because it built a purpose in us both.
Absolutely.
Right? It built a purpose
and a drive.
Drive
that I can't not be grateful for the fucking drive that I get from all of the shit I've been through. And the more that happens and has happened to me, the more powerful that drive becomes.
Right.
Like you suddenly, my brother is he's an asshole sometimes, but he's been through shit that I wouldn't wish on my worst fucking enemy.
Right.
And he likes to say that, come at me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's absolutely nothing that I can't survive now. And it's
right.
honestly, that's a little ignorant, but it is also not, because it's like a great way to go about life.
I feel the same way. I
Like,
don't live
yeah.
in fear of anything.
Well, he kind of invites it in a way. He's like, no,
Oh.
I almost like want to see how much I can.
Yeah, no.
No,
I'm
but
good.
I mean, no, but it's truthfully, yeah, it gives us that drive if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could take it the total wrong way and have a whole pity party and feel sorry for yourself and go the whole jaded route and the whole victim route. Or you can take it like how Devin does and be like, yeah, fucking come on,
right.
Let's see
Bring
how
it.
much I can handle.
Bring it.
Yeah, bitch. Okay, so let's go back to you just coming out of prison, because I saw a trend going on around TikTok recently of this chick was like, hey, just got grounded, lost my phone for 5 years. What's new? This reality is weird. But that like actually happened to you. Like you literally disconnected from reality for 5 whole years. Completely disconnected, didn't really have anything, access to nothing except some of the news.
Right.
Which can be very biased sometimes.
Right.
And talk about that a little bit, because I think it's really funny how one of the first things you said when you got out, you're like, dude, these new cars are so fucking ugly.
They are.
Like, what happened? Like, I know, trust me, I agree. The Cybertruck, the new Hyundais, like, we're in a Ready Player One direction with this. Like, we are going the wrong direction.
They're awful.
The cars could look so much cooler. And yeah, no, I just think that was so interesting, because that actually genuinely happened.
Well, I grew up like with Grandpa. I grew up with my dad. I grew up with hot rods and classic cars, and that's what I love, right? And so,
it just must be so interesting to come out and see. Yeah, they so
look
different.
I don't even know what they look like. They're just ugly.
They're so
the
bad.
Colors are ugly. The shapes are awful. They have weird lights in front of it. You know, they're awful. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I may be jaded because I love classic cars. And when I say classic cars, it's not what people or the younger generation today calls a classic car, is like an 80s or 90s. Mm-hmm. I talk about the 40s hot rods, 50s, 60s, right?
Right.
So that's what those shapes are what I love. And so they're ugly.
You also had to kind of relearn a lot of things.
I had to relearn technology completely, using cell phones, using social media. Mm-hmm. I had to pay for something. Oh my God, I remember the first time I walked in. Let's not bring up the bus.
No, we're going to talk about the bus.
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
Hilarious. No, that was so funny. Can I say it?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever.
So she FaceTimes me. This is like, how many days have you been? A couple days you had been out. And we had been FaceTiming back and forth, and she's obviously super overwhelmed, literally just came back into the world, re-entry for the first time in years. And she didn't have a car, obviously, and she's living with her aunt and uncle who are busy and couldn't give her a ride to everywhere she had to go. So she had to take the bus. And I am not judging, because I don't take the bus. I would rather walk. I'd rather spend the money on an Uber than take the fucking bus.
Yeah, and mind you, I didn't ever take the bus.
Never taken the bus
even
before.
On drugs, I'd never taken the bus,
Yeah. I'd choose not to take the bus
somehow I always had a car.
So she FaceTimes me very anxious, and she's like, Chloe, I gotta download this app, and there's this sign, it kind of keeping me on for moral support. And I don't know, I don't have advice. I've never taken the bus before. And she starts to get really stressed out because the bus is coming. She only has a specific time. She had a full-blown panic attack and starts bawling, hysterically bawling. She got on the bus. Did you miss your first spot or your first stop or something?
I think I missed like 3 before. It took me hours.
Once she finally got on the bus and was able to pay, like she was talking to the guy while she was on the phone with me. She just kept me on FaceTime.
And then once I was on it, I didn't know how to get off of it. Like I didn't know you pull the fucking thing to make them stop. Did you know that?
I'm kind of a people pleaser. I'd feel bad to bug everyone else and make them stop for me. So I just wouldn't.
No, it's your stop. You have to get the fuck off. So you have to pull this string, and then it says, whatever, stop at next exit or whatever they say. And so, but I missed my exit so many times
Yeah, so she just started hysterically bawling on
I
the
would get
phone.
off at the next exit because, or whenever someone took me a minute to figure out, oh, they're pulling that fucking thing. And then he stops. This is cool.
Oh, so that's how it works.
So embarrassing.
It's just so, it's
because
so
I'm really not that
interesting
ignorant.
because you genuinely have to
But yeah.
relearn everything.
Yeah, you do. And like how to pay for something. I'm watching these people in line and they're all, you know, ding with their phone.
Tap. She's like, it says tap to pay.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I'm like, I had money on my Apple Pay, but I didn't know how to use it, right? I had to
just hand them the phone at that point. Figure it out. I'm new to this.
I'm new to this, yeah. So there was quite a bit of learning, and it was all overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then trying to do my resume to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, well, how do I explain this 10-year gap? Like, and then not only that, but my previous job 10 years ago was president of a software company, traveling the world as a president of a software company, right? So
what happened?
So you're now so overqualified for anything you're going to apply for.
While also simultaneously underqualified.
Because I can't go back to that, right?
Yeah.
It's technology has changed so dramatically. I can't even use a cell phone.
They probably didn't even have Macs in that computer software.
Never mind to go back to, you know, I'm not going to qualify. I've never done a normal job as far as like, I've always been in that technology industry. And then I went to drug dealing.
And you were damn good at it.
And then I went to prison, right?
Yeah.
I did, you know, what ended up helping me was my experience in Carswell, right? Helping people with mental illness. And so, I don't know if you know, but the reason I got to Carswell, was sent to Texas in the first place, was because I had to do a forensic psych eval. My attorney thought it would be a great idea, a way to convince the feds to give me time off, because I'm like, I guess she apparently thought I was crazy, right?
Right.
And so she thought it was a really good idea, and especially with my history with drug addiction for so many years, off and on for 30 years, she thought that would be a really good plan. And so we got the feds convinced to pay for forensic psych eval. And the guy came up with 6 types of crazy.
6?
6. I was offended. I don't think I have. I mean, I'm a little bit crazy, maybe a lot.
I've probably
crazy.
got 3, 4.
I definitely am crazy.
Max.
We'll go with that.
Okay,
you know
can I
mean?
guess?
Sure. Go for it.
ADHD for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that I gave to you. So, thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. PTSD for sure. We both got that one.
Yes.
Bipolar, which doesn't make sense, but
yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar. It doesn't fit for me. I don't believe I'm bipolar, because when I get depressed, and I do have depression, but it's always because of someone died, or I got, you got taken from me, or, I mean, there's always some significant event in my life that causes that depression, that I can, say my vibration is at its lowest because of this, or I'm strung the fuck out and want to stop and can't get off, right? Or I'm looking at fucking like 10 or 15 years in the feds. Like, there's reasons why when I get depressed, right? Yeah. And so, but people that are bipolar don't usually have a direct reason that they can define as this is what's causing this right now. Yeah. It's just they're depressed and they don't know why, and they don't know how to get out of it, right? Yeah.
What are the other 3?
So compound trauma disorder, which is
trauma after trauma after trauma,
right?
Consecutively.
Yeah, and it's really like the way they determine it is that they, I guess, have some kind of space and time that they believe that you should heal between traumas, or that you do heal, right? So long after grief, of someone of dying, you grieve for so long, you go through the stages of grief, right? And with me, because
you didn't get time to process, it was
death upon death upon death upon death upon death upon death upon death, and then domestic violence, like severe domestic violence, to where I'm now epileptic because of it. Yeah. Right. Yep. I had so much head trauma. Um,
Oh.
so, and then, so that's the compound trauma disorder. And then there's compound heroin disorder. Is it compound? Or I don't know. I forget. Severe heroin disorder, severe opiate disorder, and severe meth disorder, something like that. Some kind of.
So heroin and meth, two
Yeah,
specific.
two different. Instead of saying substance abuse disorder, for some reason he outlined that I have specific ones, and I
Right.
guess maybe because they're more severe because they cause all kinds of things, including brain damage, and
Yeah.
they cause permanent mental damage,
Right.
right? And physical.
And
and
how long
physical.
were you doing drugs for?
It was off and on.
You
Like,
started when you were 19,
I
right?
started when I was 19. I started smoking pot when I was 19. I hadn't done anything before that. And then by the time I was 20, maybe just turning 21, I was strung out on heroin.
Wow.
So I went from pot to cocaine to meth, that peanut butter crank shit that used to be out, which was,
Peanut butter?
they called it peanut butter crank.
Like, is that the
It's
flavor?
not, it's not a flavor. You stick it up your nose or you smoke it. You don't,
Is it? Do you take it like cocaine?
you could do lines of it. Some people do lines of meth. You can smoke it. You can slam it.
And heroin was your drug of choice?
Heroin, once I got there. Yeah,
was
I liked them
what
all.
was after meth?
No, I can't say that. What's crazy is I hated cocaine. I fucking hated it, but I still did it, which is crazy.
So what was after meth?
Meth, and then I did acid, and the first time there was some mushrooms and probably other things in there, but the first time I did acid was on Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. Yeah, and the same day, just a few hours later, I did heroin for the first time.
Holy
And I was
shit.
mad. I remember being mad because the people I was with were slamming it because they did it before, right?
Is slamming like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, shooting it up. And they wouldn't let me, and I was mad. They're like, you need to smoke it the first time. You can't just go straight to slamming it.
Why?
Oh, well, because one, you can die, but two, so it's important to know how much you can do, right? And not overdose. But, it's probably best to never slam any drug for the first time you do it. It's a whole nother level of doing the drug.
And heroin was your drug of choice, right?
Heroin became my drug of choice real fast. So all of those were amazing. I mean, in that they sort of took me out of myself and the pain that I could not get out of. They numbed me.
Numbed you.
But when I found heroin, I felt this euphoric numbness, right? That I did not have to feel any pain anymore, that I did not have to process the things that had been happening to me or happened to me as a child and throughout my life.
Which is like forcing yourself to be jaded in a way.
Yeah,
like
I didn't know
numbness.
how to process things. Like, I wasn't taught growing up how to process my emotions or my feelings. As a matter of fact, I was taught not to.
You're
right?
taught to suppress.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as everything looks great, we're great, right?
Totally.
So do not, I don't care what's wrong with you, act like it's not, right?
You raised me for my foundational years when I was little. After that, we were raised by the same person. So we both...
Right. So you experienced that. Thank God you had your foundational years where I drilled into you, one, compassion for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. But also that we can be vulnerable with each other. I let you see that mommy makes mistakes, right? And mommy owns her mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. I never wanted you to think that I was
perfect.
I knew you never would. You don't think anyone's perfect. No one thinks anyone's perfect, right? So as a parent, to try and portray that is stupid. Is stupid.
Narcissistic.
And you're doing so much damage to your child, right? Because when you can say sorry to your child, or your child can see you say sorry to someone else for your wrongs, that's the best lesson you can teach them.
Absolutely.
That's the best lesson. You're teaching them that I own that I'm so far from perfect and I have so much to learn, right? And I was learning from you from day one, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was so important to me that you knew that I knew I wasn't perfect, right? Because I know with my parents, they wanted me to believe everything was great all the time, right? And that's the image they tried to portray to us. So they hid the problems, but not really, because we heard the arguments and we heard the things going on. You know, as a child, you're living in the same house. You're knowing everything is far from perfect. And so to not acknowledge that with your child and talk about it is so damaging.
Absolutely.
So damaging. And I think it's the worst thing you can do to a child, because it teaches them not to own their shit. And it teaches them to become,
you to suppress.
Yeah, it teaches you suppress emotions.
Teaches you to mistreat other people.
Right.
Yeah.
And those emotions have to come out. And if they don't, that's when addiction builds, because it's a way out, and without having the knowledge of how to deal with the things, how to deal with even guilt and shames of things you're doing.
It makes us credible, because we are both victims of extreme, severe narcissistic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us credible because
alcoholic narcissist abuse too,
which is worse, so much worse.
Which is worse, yeah.
And we came out of it strong. We
Yeah.
survived it.
Yeah.
And it made us
We're
better
pretty
people.
amazing, I think.
It made us better people.
I'm just kidding.
And I know that there's I'm not kidding. I think we're great. As I'm talking about being a narcissist.
Yeah.
I mean,
different though to get to a place where you love.
I'm not saying we're fucking perfect though, because
God,
God, we are far from it.
So
I'm not trying to be
it.
full of ourselves. I'm saying that this podcast is going to help us just as much as I hope it helps someone else. But I know that narcissistic abuse does fucking damage. Counts on you. It does damage. Like people pleasing, or I could name.
Right.
But
right.
At the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, trying your best and trying to have good morals and prioritizing other people, loving yourself, prioritizing yourself, but not constantly being consumed with yourself, focusing and prioritizing on treating other people the way you want to be treated. It's cliche, but it's fucking true. Like I said, AI, ChatGPT says the same thing. We really need to focus on kindness, love, connecting with each other, being authentic. Because especially with social media nowadays, oh my God, it has done
so far
irreversible damage.
Yeah.
Because it has convinced, especially my generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, millennials, and everyone, that you have to portray yourself as perfect in order to be...
You have to put a filter on your life, not just your pictures, but your whole life. And you show only those little components that you want.
And that's just not it. That is not, that's not reality. That's not being authentic. Like I said,
being vulnerable, and being vulnerable is so important.
It is so important to be vulnerable and to be authentic. Otherwise, we are going to lose sight of ourselves, our relationships with other people. We're going to turn into WALL-E. I'm convinced. If we go down this path. WALL-E?
Yeah.
The movie. The rope. You introduced me to WALL-E. You should.
I don't remember.
Hold on. That's unacceptable, Mom. You literally... WALL-E. The cute little robot guy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so the whole...
I've done a lot of drugs. Give me a break.
I guess can't argue
I don't
that
have
one.
that many brain cells left.
Oh, my God. My memory's shot, too. But the whole premise of WALL-E is that they are living on a spaceship up in the sky. They're all super unhealthy, so immobile that they are in these little floating... wheelchairs, and they have screens in their faces. They don't even say hi to each other or acknowledge each other as they pass by. It's just robots running the world. It's us now, because we're all like this, but it's gonna get worse. It's literally, like ChatGPT said, that I feel like our end result is something along the lines of WALL-E. If we don't, did I already say this podcast?
Well, you know what's interesting? If we're gonna, I don't want to go on a tangent, but you know that the lack of connection, that the more we stay in this dopamine of the social media, right, and scrolling, doom scrolling, and all that, disconnect, right, and the lack of connection, human connection, right, what that creates is mental illness, and you know who profits off that? Pharma.
Yeah, big
right?
pharma.
Yeah.
Government.
Yeah. So
the corrupt little amount of people.
It's all purposeful, right? To create.
No, they thrive off of us being sick.
A scenario in where everyone is needing these psych meds, and everyone is, it's so sad to me. It's so sad, but it's on us, right? It's on us. We can put it down.
All we can control,
we can disconnect and can start to connect like we're doing now.
All we can do is connect with each other.
This is probably the longest time, I gone without picking up my phone and checking it, right? And it's amazing that we're doing this. I'm super happy and super proud of us, because this connection is going to help us heal, right? And it's so important. But the time that we go spend, and it's weird to go through our past, right? But at the same time, it helps you to see my perception, my experiences of what I was going through, right? And how I experienced the same things or different things, right? Because we were apart for a lot of years, and I don't think you even know, the craziness of.
We're gonna go over.
I don't know that you want to know.
No, I want to know everything.
It got
crazy.
She's got
some. I know that I was conceived on a sex swing, and that
you're
God,
freaky.
We gotta so what else?
Bringing this
what
up.
Can get worse? It can't get much worse than that.
That's not worse. That's not a bad thing.
Hey, I'm proud of it. I tell everyone. I'm just saying.
It's embarrassing as fuck for me. I don't want the world to know
I'm embarrassing?
You're not embarrassing. I'm so proud you're here. And if I had to use a sex swing to get you, then that's fine.
Okay. So link in my bio to my Amazon storefront with the sex swing in there. I highly recommend.
We're not promoting sex swings, are we? Hey, it's the next new cure for infertility. If you have a tilted uterus, just use a sex swing and you'll get pregnant.
There you go. Sponsor us. Whatever brand sells sex swings, we're open to sponsors.
That's just what we need. Some bondage
other than
company.
Speaking of, we are coming at you
That's
live
hilarious.
from where I work, where I'm proud to be working, Loft 100 Studios.
Loft 100 Studios.
Yes. Thank you for employing me. We are the best studio south of LA. So if you need anything camera related, editing, live TV, bands, interviews, podcasts, come here. Loft100studios.com. Located in Carlsbad, Bressi Ranch, San Diego, California.
Yes.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Sully. Thank you, Loft 100 Studios. I love you guys. I set all this up myself.
Wow.
And yeah. So this is Breaking Jaded. It's not always going to be about recovery, but that is something that is very important to us specifically.
Absolutely.
And we really think that there is a lack of resources and help with reentry after being incarcerated or just recovery in general. And people tend to look down upon people who are any sort of addicts. And I've always hated that fact because not me, but we as a society tend to dehumanize a lot of addicts. And at the end of the day, if they're a good person, they're a good person, and they're just lost or stuck.
And most addicts are when you're in prison, for the most part, like these women support each other like you wouldn't believe. I mean, there obviously is some, bad apples, and there's some tough times in there that, people go through, but it's usually because they're going through something in there, right? But for the most part, the way they rally together to support one another and build each other up and help each other is amazing, right?
Yeah. So
it's absolutely amazing.
We're really going to cover that, recovery, reentry, all that, but we're also going to talk about, we have some pretty funny and entertaining shit and stories to share with you guys. Yeah. So I've been told since I was little, you need to write a book. And I'm like, I don't like reading. I don't like writing, but I like editing. And
How
I can
can
talk.
you not like reading? I'd love to read.
Because I tend to open a book, read 4 pages, and not retain a single word.
You're ADHD.
Unless...
Yeah, it takes me a long time. Actually, I got pretty fast at reading when I was in prison. I read 1,000 books probably in the 5 years I was in there.
Unless I'm reading a book that I care about this, whatever is on this page, I can scan it. I can scan it and take in all the information. So it's kind of a superpower. It's kind of like... So we're gonna do this podcast, and... if you watch this whole thing, thank you. If I know you, I love you. Thank you for watching this. And
we love you anyways. We love everyone.
We love
what do you
everyone.
mean? We love everyone.
Yep.
Yes. We do love you. If you don't think anyone loves you, know that we love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's any topics you want us to discuss, please leave remarks, leave comments, let us know. We'd happy to, and we will be bringing other people on.
By the way,
the
we have
podcast.
matching shoes.
Yeah, you like our matching shoes.
Yeah, we'll have guests. It's gonna be a full-blown podcast, and hopefully one day we end up on Joe Rogan. Good job, Mom. We fucking did it. I hope we were recording. Wow.